Chris Hedges' most recent column is entitled Jesus, Endless War, and the Rise of American Fascism. Let me share with you what Chris wrote. Thanks to Paul Reichert for pointing this out. And at some point, when I get started in this, we'll have to take a break, but that's all right. Chris writes this: the Democratic Party, which had 50 years to write Roe v. Wade into law with Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama in full control of the White House and Congress at the inception of their presidencies, the Democratic Party is banking its electoral strategy around the expected Supreme Court decision to lift the judicial prohibition on the ability of states to enact laws restricting or banning abortions. I doubt it will work. The Democratic Party's hypocrisy and duplicity is the fertilizer for Christian fascism. Its exclusive focus on the culture wars and identity politics at the expense of economic, political, and social justice has fueled a right-wing backlash and stoked the bigotry, racism, and sexism it sought to curtail. It's opting for image over substance, including the Democratic Party's repeated failure to secure the right to abortion, left the Democrats distrusted and reviled. The Biden administration invited Amazon labor union president Christian Smalls and union workers from Starbucks and other organizations to the White House. At the same time, it rewarded a $10 billion contract to the union-busting Amazon and the National Security Agency for cloud computing. The NSA contract is one of 26 federal cloud computing contracts Amazon has with the U.S. Army and Air Force, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of the Interior, and the Census Bureau. Withholding the federal contracts until Amazon permitted free and open union organizing would be a powerful stand on behalf of workers still waiting for the $15 minimum wage Joe Biden promised as a candidate. But behind the walls of the Democratic Party's Potemkin village stands the billionaire class. Democrats have failed to address the structural injustices that turned America into an oligarchic state where the obscenely rich squabble like children in a sandbox over multi-billion-dollar toys. The longer this game of political theater continues, the worse things will get. The Christian fascists have coalesced in cult-like fashion around Donald Trump. They are bankrolled by the most retrograde forces of capitalism. The capitalists permit the stupidities of the Christian fascists and the self-destructive social and cultural wars. In exchange, the billionaire class gets corporate monopolies, union busting, privatized state and municipal services, including public education, revoked government regulations, especially environmental regulations, and can engage in a virtual tax boycott. The wealthy. The war industry loves the Christian fascists who turn every conflict from Iraq to Ukraine into a holy crusade to crush the latest iteration of Satan. The Christian fascists believe military power and the manly virtues that come with it are blessed by God and Jesus and the Virgin Mary. No military budget is too big. No war waged by America is evil. These Christian fascists make up perhaps 30% of the electorate, roughly equivalent to the percentage of Americans who believe abortion is murder. They are organized, committed to a vision, however perverse, and awash in money. John Roberts, Samuel Alito, Amy Coney Barrett, Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, mediocre jurists and Federalist Society ideologues who carry the banner of Christian fascism control the Supreme Court. Establishment Republicans and Democrats like George Armstrong Custer on Last Stand Hill have circled the wagons around the Democratic Party in a desperate effort to prevent Trump or a Trump mini-me from returning to the White House. They and their allies in Silicon Valley are using algorithms and overt deplatforming to censor critics from the left and the right, foolishly turning figures like Trump, Alex Jones, and Marjorie Taylor Greene into martyrs. This is not a battle over democracy, but the spoils of power waged by billionaires against billionaires. No one intends to dismantle the corporate state. Now I'm going to pause here because we have a break. And then I'll pick this back up when we come back. Very quickly, as far as my voice, the rattly, raspy nature, I was attacked by bees again over the weekend and had to go through some treatment, and it's left me kind of raspy, to say the least. That's what steroids do to me. But not to fear. They didn't get me. Again, they got me, but they didn't get me completely. Something about me and insect stings that just, well, it's real dangerous. The ruling class in both parties told lies about NAFTA, trade deals, so-called reforming welfare, abolishing financial regulations, austerity, the Iraq War, the neoliberalism that did far more damage to the American public than any lie told by Trump. The reptilian slime oozes out of every pore of these politicians, from Nancy Pelosi to Chuck Schumer to Joe Biden, who backed the 1976 Hyde Amendment banning federal funding of abortions, and in 1982 voted to support a constitutional amendment that would allow states to overturn Roe v. Wade. Their hypocrisy is not lost on the public. Even with their armies of consultants, pollsters, courtiers in the press, public relations teams, and advertising agencies. Marjorie Taylor Greene is clueless and unhinged. She claims Hillary Clinton was involved in a child mutilation and a pedophilia ring, and several high-profile school shootings were staged. But weaponized, like Trump, she is a political cruise missile aimed straight at the heart of the discredited centers of traditional power. Hate is the fuel of American politics. No one votes for who they want. They vote against those they hate. Black and brown marginal communities have suffered worse assaults than the white working class, but they have been defanged politically with militarized police that function as internal armies of occupation. The erosion of due process, the world's largest prison system, and the stripping away of all rights, including often voting rights because of felony convictions, as well as a loss of access to most social services and jobs, reduced black and brown citizens to a subsistence level on the lowest rung of America's caste system. They are also the primary targets of Republican-sponsored voter suppression and redistricting. The glue holding this Christianized fascism together is not prayer, although we will get a lot of that, but war. War is the raison d'etre of all systems of totalitarianism. War justifies a constant search for internal enemies. War is used to revoke basic civil liberties and impose censorship. War demonizes those in the Middle East, Russia, or China who are blamed for the economic and social debacles that inevitably get worse. War diverts the rage engendered by a dysfunctional state toward immigrants, people of color, feminists, liberals, artists, anyone who does not identify as heterosexual, the press, Antifa, Jews, Muslims, Russians, Asians. Take your pick. It's a bigot's smorgasbord. Every item on the menu is fair game. I spent 2 years with the Christian right reporting and researching my book entitled American Fascists, the Christian Right and the War on America. These Christian fascists have never hidden their agenda or their desire to create what they'd call a Christian nation any more than Adolf Hitler hid his demented vision for Germany in Mein Kampf. They prey, like all fascists, on the despair of their followers. They paint gruesome portraits of the end times when the longed-for obliteration of non-believers presages the glorious return of Jesus Christ. The Battle of Armageddon, they believe, will be launched from the Antichrist's worldwide headquarters in Babylon once the Jews have control of Israel. The closer we get to Armageddon, the giddier they become. These people believe this stuff, as they believe in QAnon or the election fraud that supposedly put Biden in office. They're convinced that a demonic, secular humanist ideology propagated by the media, the United Nations, elite universities, the ACLU, the NAACP, the National Organization for Women, Planned Parenthood, the Trilateral Commission, along with U.S. State Department and major foundations, are trying to destroy them. Violence is embraced as a cleansing agent, a key component of any fascist movement. The Christian fascists do not fear nuclear war. They welcome it. The insane provocation of Russia by the Biden administration, including the decision to provide $33 billion in assistance to Ukraine, to target 10 Russian generals for assassination, and pass on to Ukraine the intelligence to sink the Moskva, the guided missile cruiser that was the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. All of this supercharges the ideology of the Christian right. The marriage of the war industry, determined to make war forever, with the Christian fascist yearning for the apocalypse, is terrifying. Biden is sleepwalking us into a war with Russia and perhaps China. And the Christian fascists will accelerate the bloodlust. The political deformities we have spawned are not unique. They are the product of a society and government that no longer functions on behalf of the citizenry, one that has been seized by a tiny cabal, in our case corporate, to serve its exclusive interests. The airy promises politicians make, including the announcements by candidate Barack Obama that the first thing he would do in office was sign the Freedom of Choice Act, which during his 8 years as president he never got around to doing. Those promises are worthless. The scheduled vote next week in the Senate on a bill asserting that abortions are legal in the United States, which is expected to be blocked by the Republicans' use of the filibuster, a Senate procedure that requires 60 votes to advance most legislation, is another empty gesture. We saw the consequences of this dysfunction in Weimar Germany and Yugoslavia, a conflict I covered for the New York Times. Political stagnation and economic misery breeds rage, despair, and cynicism. It gives rise to demagogues, charlatans, and con artists. Hatred drives political discourse. Violence is the primary form of communication. Vengeance is the highest good. War is the chief occupation of the state. It is the vulnerable and the weak who pay. Chris Hedges, with his latest attempt to wake us up to some of this horrible shit. I have not always agreed with Chris Hedges' writings, which is my right. He's much more informed than I am. He's more educated than I am. He has a wider worldview than I have. But I respect my own opinions and my own insights that have come as a result of my own observations and investigations and readings. But one thing I have always agreed with Chris Hedges on is the destruction caused by Christian fascism and the kind of capitalism that is rampant on this planet, that is going to end life on this planet. It is. It's happening in front of our eyes, and we're doing nothing. I'm sure you probably get as frustrated as I do at times. So what to do? I mean, truly, we have a binary political system here that is rotten to the core. When was it? 5 or 6 years ago, and I said I'm no longer a Democrat. I can't keep doing this. I have voted for Democratic candidates, but as Hedges points out, my votes, almost every goddamn vote I have cast on the national level for the past 10, 15 years has been a protest vote. The political system in this country has failed us, and when a democratic system starts to fail, totalitarianism moves in as easily as a thief coming into your house at night when you left the back door unlocked. And I admitted, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago that I ran the gamut of immediate emotions when the Russians invaded Ukraine and started this horrific slaughter of innocents. My God, what they've done. But I also was able to state categorically my understanding of why this insane man Putin was pushed to the point of doing that. Because of all the violations that the United States and the NATO nations, the violations committed after promising not to antagonize and incite the paranoia that the Russian people and the Russian leadership have always had. We made the promises and then said, fuck it, let's do it anyway. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.